It's time once again for the Overcoming Mediocrity podcast, where we sit down with today's top influencers and entrepreneurs on the rise as they share empowering stories and ninja tips to become the fuel that ignites a positive change in your life and the lives of others. Our guests don't simply coast through life. They don't let difficult situations stop them. They set big goals, keep their eyes on the prize, and they're joining us today to share insider secrets you can use right now to step into your power and live your purpose. Now here's your host, Christy Ruffino.
Are you ready to step into your greatness? Do what you need to do to ensure that the next chapter of your life, your next story, will be written your way. Well, hi, I'm Christy Ruffino, the host of the show and the creator of the Overcoming Mediocrity Project, where everyday women tap into the power of their stories to magnify their message and elevate their brand so they can enjoy a business and life of true significance. I'm happy that you're here because this show is for people like you who are on the edge of change. You're ready to rise up, overcome mediocrity, empower your thoughts, elevate your thinking, and transform your life. Thanks for spending time with me today. Now let's get started. Today's episode is brought to you by the Overcoming Mediocrity Project. Are you ready to share your story in a life-changing book with other success-driven women? Then, what if you could use that book to get speaking gigs, podcast interviews, and possibly a new client or two? Wouldn't that be great? Well, watch out, chicken soup. Here comes Overcoming Mediocrity. Our proven system can transform your struggle story into a powerful signature message and then as one chapter in an Amazon best-selling book. Our process is simple and economical, and it will bring a lot of eyeballs on you, your business, and your big message to the world. We welcome you to apply to join our project. Just visit us at overcomingmediocrity.org and click on the apply button at the top of the page. We'll see you soon. Well, hello and welcome again. I am really excited to be introducing our next guest for today. And she is a really amazing businesswoman. She has been a mentor of mine for many years personally, meeting her when I did back then and just following her progress over the years. And this is one of the people that I'm interviewing right off the bat in this show that I can honestly say, if I didn't meet her and if the series of events didn't happen the way they did, I probably would not be talking to you right now. And we probably wouldn't have this podcast, nor would I have published so many books to help women elevate their brand by sharing their signature story. So today, I have the honor of introducing you to Michelle Prince. And Michelle is the person that actually asked me to share my story for the very, very, very first time. And even though my first reaction was no, I ended up by saying yes when she shared how transformational the process or the whole experience would be. And now years later, I not only have really been featured in her book, but I've been featured in many other publications, as well as produced a whole series of books under the Overcoming Mediocrity brand. So, Michelle, let me tell you a little bit about who Michelle is. Michelle Prince is a successful businesswoman, best-selling author, sought-after motivational speaker, publishing expert, leadership coach, and the CEO and founder of Performance Publishing Group, a partner publishing company dedicated to making a difference one story at a time. She is known as America's productivity coach. She's a certified human behavior consultant, and she dedicates herself to helping women impact the world using the strengths and talents that they already have within themselves. She's helped thousands tell their stories and become published authors through her consulting, courses, seminars, and publishing services. And she founded the Book Bound Workshop. I've actually been through the program, and I would say that was super helpful for me to be able to finish my own book. Michelle has also published many successful books, including her best-selling Winning in Life Now and her latest, The Power of Authority. Michelle is a Ziglar certified legacy speaker trainer and named the Ziglar brand ambassador, representing the values and legacy of the late Zig Ziglar. She was the co-host of the Zig Ziglar Show podcast with 40 million downloads and host of her own podcast, The Power of Authority. She has been a featured speaker for many corporations, associations, and events to inspire, transform, and support leaders. So let's get on with the show and let's meet Michelle. Well, hello and welcome to the Overcoming Mediocrity podcast. And I am really, really excited for today's guest. And I've strategically placed her in episode number 2, right after Bob Berg, because both of them were really key pieces to my business journey. And you've already hopefully listened to Bob's journey or Bob's episode. But Michelle is honestly, I feel, the reason why we have our Overcoming Mediocrity brand, because as I share my story about how important story is, it was her inviting me to share my story in one of the books she did that really opened this kind of Pandora's box. And the experience was so life-changing for me that I created a similar opportunity for my clients with her help, of course. And look at where we are now, 8 years later. And not only do we have 10 books, but we have a podcast. And I basically owe this all to this woman here. So thank you, Michelle, for joining us. I can't wait for everybody else that's listening to get to know you and see how awesome you are.
Oh, thank you, Christy. And obviously give yourself that credit. You did the work to get there, but I'm so glad I could inspire you to get that ball rolling.
Yeah. So tell me, or tell our audience, who is Michelle Prince? Like, you have an amazing story. I remember the first time I heard you talk, but we just spent the last 20 minutes catching up because we haven't really spoken in a while. But how did you get to be the expert you are right now with leveraging your authority, and how you want to be an author to do that, and how we really are leveraging kind of our story and our wisdom to really make a bigger impact in the world?
Totally. Yeah. And it's a crazy long story. I won't go through all of it, but my career started working for Zig Ziglar, and that had a huge impact on me because, I was just out of college and I just loved everything that he stood for and values. And, I saw him making a difference in people's lives. And I knew some way, somehow I'd be doing more of that as I grew into my own, if you will. But I didn't really know how to do it. And it was in 2008, I had this, well, I always had a goal to write a book, but I didn't dare tell anybody about it until I decided to. I remember sitting in a conference actually and thinking, well, why not me? Why not? Why don't I just write a book? And so I'm going to write a book and I'm just going to share it with my kids, and that'll be that. And I did write a book, and it was, my first book was called Winning in Life Now, and Zig wrote the foreword, and it was a big deal in my little world.
I have that book.
You do?
And I have Busy Being Busy. I've got both of them.
Yes, that was my second book. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, but that book really opened up this opportunity to get out there and speak and do things. But the one thing that as I would meet people and I was out speaking, I'd meet all these incredible people and they have great stories, but they really didn't know, they didn't have a platform. They didn't know how to leverage it. And so I started just getting really passionate about, let me help you figure out your story. You have so much more to offer. And the moment you get clarity on that and then put it out there, yes, it's going to help you, but it's going to help a lot more people. So it just kind of evolved to that. It evolved to not just helping people find their story, but to publish them, and publishing company and everything that goes along with that. So, but it's been an incredible journey. And funny, just catching up with you, it's like amazing how fast time goes, because
I know.
If you've been doing it 8 years, then yeah. So I just had my 10-year anniversary for Bookbound. So yeah, it just goes too fast.
Yeah. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about what Bookbound is.
So Bookbound is a conference I've been doing since 2010, and pre-COVID we were doing it live in person a couple times a year. But it's basically 3 days. It's really designed for new authors who are trying to get clarity. Well, what is my story? What is it? Or if I did want to really grow my business or leverage what I'm doing, how would I do that? Not yes, the publishing part comes into it, but it's really focused on like kind of getting clarity on who you are, what do you have to offer, and then okay, how do you go through that process? How do you market a book? All of those things. And so we've been doing that for all those years, and it's been great. It's amazing to see how many people have taken that information and just kind of run with it and either created their own book or their own brand or something. And it's everyone has the ability to do it. It's just not everyone does.
Yeah, it's kind of like I love gardening because you plant a seed and you watch it grow, and you've got all these people out there in the world from the last 10 years that you planted these seeds, and now they've got not only books, but look at the impact those books have made, or even speaking. Once we are able to identify our value and share it, whether it's in a book or verbally, we're making an impact because we're affecting the lives of so many people.
Right, because you don't know who you're going to inspire. And I didn't personally do that for people. I just helped them to see what was already in them. That's all.
But we can't see what's in ourselves. So we need somebody else to help pull it out of us and create clarity, because in our brains, it's like all a big jumbled mess.
Completely. Yes, that's why we have mentors.
That's why even the best coaches have coaches, right?
Always, always, always.
Yeah. So, all right. So I remember you came to Chicago to do a Bookbound weekend once. And I thought that was like my first, like, I didn't even at that point ever think I'd have my own book. But being in that expanded my mind to go beyond just a chapter to writing my book. And I did. It took me, I won't even tell you how long it took me to do my own book, but I eventually got it done.
Yeah.
So
and that's all that matters. It's funny is that conference in Chicago is the reason I started Bookbound by the Sea. Because Bookbound, and this is just an off story, but Bookbound at the time, I was doing it in different cities. I'm from Dallas, so we do it there, but I did it in Nashville and Chicago and a bunch of other cities. And it was January, Chicago. I remember my plane landing on the runway and it's sliding because of the ice. And at that moment, I'm like, wait a minute, this is my own event. Why am I in Chicago in January?
Thank you for coming. But yes, I would.
No, and I'm from Illinois. I'm from, the South Side, so I love Chicago, but it was at that moment that I was like, no, from now on, just in January, I will be South Florida. And I have ever since.
So when you said that initially just now that Chicago is the reason why I do the Bookbound by the Sea, is because I'm like, I bet it's because you came in the cruddiest part of our winter. And yeah, I totally get it. I want to leave here as fast as I can, but I'm stuck for now. Oh, so yeah. All right. So you do you have the Prince Performance Publishing, you've got the Bookbound by the Sea, you speak at conferences and corporates. You got a whole corporate division of your business. That's pretty neat. When I just learned that, I'm like, wow, this girl knows her stuff.
Just lots of fun things. And it's just like we were talking about pre this, everything evolves, but it's always kind of like you are who you are. Your core message is your core message. But you can evolve to the different types of people you can help. And it's just, it's been an interesting year, but in a lot of ways, such a positive year too, for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've heard that from a lot of people too. Yeah. Of course, we're all dealing with certain challenges. But I think that there's a lot of good things that have come out of this whole situation. And, if we can find those positive, rays of sunshine, just grab onto them and they'll get bigger and better. So a lot of great success stories too in this era.
Yes, totally. And I think we're going to hear more too.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you don't mind hanging on for a few moments, we're going to take a quick commercial break. And then I know you've got some great things that you want to share with our audience.
You bet. Yeah.
I know. You hear us asking you to subscribe, rate, and review, But what does that really mean? Is it really that important? Well, if other podcast hosts are anything like me, they've put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into their show. And personally, I get really discouraged when I have something great to share and no one is listening. Beyond algorithms, ratings and reviews are critical for a show's sustainability. It goes way beyond fanning the flames of our egos, or by getting a little that a girl pat on the back. Reviews create social proof and prove that our show has an engaged and loyal following. So, if you like our show, please take a moment to subscribe, rate, and review. And while you're at it, pick up one of our Overcoming Mediocrity books on Amazon. You'll be glad that you did. Well, welcome back to the Overcoming Mediocrity podcast. I am here with Michelle Prince. As I mentioned earlier, she's like one of my mentors and just been a huge part of bringing our Overcoming Mediocrity brand together. So what she is going to be sharing today is how to leverage authority. And I didn't even get it when she said that it is a play on words. It's about being an author and leveraging that, leveraging our message. So share a little bit about that, Michelle, because I know you've got some great tips and wisdom that you want to share.
Well, thanks. Yeah, I love, obviously we both share the love of helping people to tell their stories, and there is a place for that, right? And you don't have to want to build a business to tell your story, but those that do, and people that are business owners, professionals, people that are really trying to differentiate from their competition, they have to look at their story, if you will, as it's just their ability to get more clarity, or I'm sorry, more visibility, more authority. And so, yes, so the book I just wrote was called The Power of Authority: How to Get More Revenue, Respect, and Results, all by authoring a book. But it goes through this framework, if you will. And yes, you can use this framework for anything. You don't have to write a book. And so that's why I'm a big believer that it's really not about a book. It is about your story. But I'll share what I mean by that in just a minute. So I'll go through this really quick, Christy, but then you can stop me, with questions or whatever. But so the framework follows a 7-step process to building your authority. And the first one is really just clarity. And this goes for anything in life, right? You can't really accomplish anything unless you really have that clarity. COVID has been amazing for people to stop and get clarity on what do I really, really want for my life, for my business, for my relationships. And so, but that clarity is really key in getting the authority, because what do you want to do with your business, or what do you want to do with your brand? That's really the first step, because until you have that, you really can't move to the second step, which is uncovering what's holding you back. And, and I know, and especially if you work with authors, there's so many things that get in the way of getting things done. It could be procrastination. It could be fear. It could be, negative beliefs. But there's something going on. It's usually some mind chatter. And that's what holds us back, because, like we were saying earlier, I don't do anything to help people write their books. I just help people to see what's already within them. But something has to break. Something has to break free to uncover, whatever that block is. So that internal block, because everyone can do this, but not everybody's ready to. So that first is, what do you really want? What's holding you back? And then it's, now we can identify your story. And your story, again, it's not a book. It is, who are you, right? What do you, you did this exercise at Bookbound years ago, but it's, what are your passions and your experiences? Because ultimately that's just who you are.
Right.
And when you can find that intersection of the two, that's your story. And people want to know your story. And in fact, especially if you're in business, people want to know your backstory. Why do you do what you do? How did you get into this? So getting that clarity on, well, what is my story? And then how can I position it to get more authority is the first or the third step in the process. But then comes documenting it. Now, I do personally love books, and I love helping people to publish books, but it doesn't have to be a book. I mean, you could document it in a blog. You can document it, in a journal. You can do whatever, but you have to, just because you know your story, just because you know the clarity on it doesn't mean it's going to benefit anyone else or benefit your brand. So you have to find a way to get it out there and document it and then publish it. And so step 5 is the publishing. And yes, you can publish a book, but you can also publish a podcast.
Yeah.
You can publish a YouTube channel. You can publish, it's your story. So it's really, it's not about a book. It's more the medium that you get to share that story at a bigger level. I happen to believe the book is the first step, but it doesn't have to be for those who are like, yeah, I'm not sure. But your audience, I know they're convinced of that already. But don't just stop there. Keep going. Publish it in so many different ways so that you can really reach as many people as possible. Because ultimately, what's the purpose of all this is the platform, which is step number 6. And that platform is really when somebody thinks of you and your brand, it's not just one thing. It's a course, it's a podcast, it's a speaking event, it's a retreat, it's your platform, so that somebody when somebody talks about you, that's what they're thinking. And that authority comes when somebody clearly sees your platform. And then the last step is, I think probably the most important is it's inspiring others. When it's amazing what happens when you step into your greatness, or you just recognize, like, what, I've been through a couple things in my business, or I've been through some things personally that I learned a couple things here and there that I could share with other people, and it could help them. And what happens is you don't even know it's happening, but you're inspiring other people to find their clarity and to find their story and to build their platform. And it's just this cycle. And so this framework is really I think of it as like a wheel. It's just always going and going. And the bigger you build your authority, the more people you're impacting and inspiring to do the same. And so anyway, it's a very quick overview of what the framework is, but ultimately it comes down to, you do have to believe that you have something to say. You have to own it. And you have to get it out there, because we are inspired by people who share their stories.
Yeah. And I remember the first time you asked me, and I love this framework, but I remember the first time you asked me to share my story, my first reaction was no. Like, I didn't own it. I didn't really recognize how my story would help other people. And I see that when I talk to people as well, sometimes they think, well, all right, this is the timeline of my life, but it's not really about us. It's about them. It's about the listener, the audience, the reader, being able to take what we went through and not only be inspired, but equipped, right?
Yes.
How can they not have that struggle last as long as it did for us? Or how can they become more empowered by the wisdom that we gained through that journey?
Totally. And a lot of people get this confused and think, well, I can't do that until I'm at the pinnacle of my career, or I can't do that until I make X amount of money. And I always say to them, well, yes, you can, because you're no better than anybody else out there. You just might be one step ahead of someone else. So what do we do for friends? If we're one step ahead of them, we turn around and say, hey, here's the pothole I just, stepped my foot in, or whatever, because but you don't have to have it all completely, figure it out to help other people.
Well, really,
thankfully.
are we ever going to have it all figured? I mean, our story never ends, right? We're never going to end. We're never going to be at the place while we're, above ground where we've got it all figured out. So there's always something that we can share with other people,
right,
that will help them.
And that we may take for granted, like, oh, doesn't everybody know how to do that?
Well, and I think that's the biggest thing. I think what is that, experts are when we've done something so much that we don't even think about it. That's the unconscious competence, right? Yeah. So I think that is a key thing too, because sometimes when we know something so well, we don't even recognize the value that it has.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Wow. Okay, so we have to have clarity. That's really important. Where are we going to go? Like, what is the reason for all this, and how we're going to get to a specific destination, uncover what's holding us back. And don't we all have things? I'm sure that you find that's going to be one of the biggest obstacles, is like what we're creating for ourselves, or maybe what other people are creating for us.
And that imposter syndrome is huge, especially when people are they have a passion to help people. That tends to be one of the things that gets in the way. Yeah, but who do I think I am? Well, who are you not to?
Well, right.
And I know because that's what I struggled with before I wrote my book. So I only share what I know.
Right. Well, I do remember, like, I said no to you. And then the question that you asked me was, well, if your story could help just one person, wouldn't it be worth it?
Mm.
And I say that over and over again to people I talk to, because when I went through what I went through, if I would have been able to read somebody else's journey,
Yes.
who knows what could have happened. But I'm sure what I went through probably wouldn't have been as horrific, because I would have learned from other people's messes, right?
Right.
So, that's really important. Huh. Okay. Story is really the conversion of your passions and experiences.
Yeah.
That's perfect. Document it. That's a key thing. So I know you have really great kind of strategies to help people document and to get it out of their head and get it on their paper. And I remember one of the exercises that you had us go through, where we had these big markers and papers on the wall, and we were just like brainstorming our life on there and everything. And that was one of those exercises. I don't think I still have that paper yet, but I had it for a long time. And it was one of those exercises that I'm like, wow, that was just so, like, we think of things that I thought of things that, like, I had totally forgotten. And I think that's the point, right? It's like pull all this stuff out of our subconscious mind.
Yeah, and organize it. One of the hardest things is not so much figuring out, well, what would I say? It's like, well, how would I say it? Because I have all these ideas and they're just jumbled all over the place.
Yeah.
And that exercise is actually, it's mind mapping, and I didn't invent mind mapping. I just happened to do it for books, and so it's just a really easy way to put all those thoughts on paper, so that then you can go back and organize them and make sense of them. But it's just, it always amazes me, but to see other people, because when they're shocked, like, oh my gosh, I didn't know I had this in you. And it's like, well, of course you do. You've had a whole lifetime worth of lessons and things you've done. Of course you have a lot to share.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so then we're going to get off to publishing. So yes, in a book, and I'm sure there's a lot of different ways that we can take that written document and use it, part of it for a lead magnet on our website, or downloadable things, audios.
Right.
I'm sure, yeah, and books. And I know I did a couple smaller business card size books, so just really small. I think there were 7,000 words. It wasn't huge. Yeah. But I took some of the lead magnets that I had that were really high converting and really, valuable, and I turned it into like a little thin paper book. So, I mean, yeah, you don't have to have a 70,000 word brilliant manuscript to be able to, accomplish something. So how many books do you have right now, Michelle?
Oh, of my own books, 14.
Oh my God.
15 is not published yet. It's written, but I haven't published it yet.
Oh my gosh. All right. I got a little more work to do.
No. So it's, yeah, I love to write though. And I'm not a writer, but I love that creative outlet.
Yeah. And this is another thing too. So when I first started writing, it was so hard for me. Probably, I don't even know how many words the chapter I did for you, but it probably took me, like, it didn't take me long, because I think you said I had to have it to you in like 5 days or something.
Yeah.
For those 5 days, I didn't do anything but write. But beyond that, writing is a muscle. And I've learned that the more it is done, the easier it gets, and the more I look forward to it. I look forward to having my writing time now.
Yeah. And and some people still don't love writing, and that's okay. So many books are done, just record yourself, just talk it out. My second book, actually, I did that way, Busy Being Busy. I was speaking on that topic a lot, and I just recorded one of my speaking presentations, and then we used that as the framework. And of course I added more to it. But you don't have to sit down and just pound at a computer. If it's easier for you to talk or get on a webinar like this and then transcribe it, boom, you've got it right there.
Yeah, that just reminds me. So I did a course on writing a book, and I'm like, I had it all transcribed, and I was going to massage it and turn it into books. I need, maybe over the holiday break, I'll work on that.
There you go.
You can take your course, you can take blog posts and just all your content and organize it in a good manner. And now you've got this great experience for the reader.
Exactly.
All right, perfect. And then you went into platform.
Mhm.
because your platform is basically kind of like your branding, right? Like that's
Yeah,
who you
and
are.
there's so many things you can do. I mean, you're doing it now with a podcast, and but that consistent branding across multiple channels and media outlets is so important. Consistency is what creates that platform. It's the ability for somebody to say like, oh, you need an oral surgeon. I know the person because they've checked all the boxes of putting themselves out there in different ways.
Yeah.
And perception is reality
Yeah.
when it comes to marketing. So
And then top of mind, because we all have so many things flashing in front of ourselves all the time and so many options. But
exactly.
now if they come back and say, oh, Michelle, Prince Performance Publishing, I've seen her blog. I mean, you're like one of the best content writers. Like I love your blog article. So
Oh, thank you.
checked out Michelle's blog. She's a really great content or a blog writer. So
Thank you.
yeah. So, all right, then we get into inspire others.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, ultimately, that's what this is all about. It doesn't feel like it when you're, trying to find ways to build your business, but it really is at the end of the day, everything you do. And when somebody says to you like, oh my gosh, because you did this, I did this, or because you encouraged me. It's like, that's what makes it all worthwhile.
well, what is the quote about the more people you help? I'm sure you
Yep.
know this.
Zig's most famous quote is, you can have everything in life you want if you just help enough other people get what they want. And that's really what we're doing by sharing our story. Yes, it benefits us, but it's benefiting somebody else more. But the byproduct of it is now they're in a better place, and then they're going to go out and they're going to inspire someone, and then they're going to inspire someone. It's a chain reaction.
It is. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, this was so great, Michelle. I know you have a free gift for our audience. I know we're doing like a special 12-day giveaway, or not a giveaway, but gifts. We're giving gifts away. It's Christmas. Why not?
Yes.
So,
And I think of any year that we need a little bit of some gifting. It's this year.
right? So
Yeah.
share a little bit about what you're giving our audience today.
So I'm giving away my latest book, The Power of Authority, How to Get the Revenue, Respect, and Results You Deserve by authoring a book. And it's the digital download, so you can actually start reading it immediately. And it's just go to thepowerofauthority.com/Michelle Prince.
Oh my gosh, that is great. And don't worry about it if you didn't write it down. Everything will be in the show notes below. The link to connect with Michelle to find out all about not only her free gift, but all of the different ways that she can support you on your author journey, or I should say your authority journey.
Yes.
All right, Michelle, well, thank you so much for spending time with us today. I really appreciate you. I appreciate you sharing your wisdom with our community, and have a blessed rest of the day.
Thank you. And Christy, I'm just so excited for you and all that you've done over the years. It's really, really awesome. And so thanks for having me.
Thank you for listening to the Overcoming Mediocrity podcast, where we believe that everyone can have the business and life of their dreams once they learn the art of mastering their story. Because mastering our stories is the key to everything we want in life. Our stories can either hold us back, or they can become the fuel that ignites a positive change in our life and the lives of others. We can choose. You can choose. Choose to overcome mediocrity with us. Let's achieve greatness together. To learn more, visit overcomingmediocrity.org. And don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review this podcast.